My name's Colm-cille Caulfield. I'm a Professor of Environmental and Industrial Fluid Dynamics in the Department of Applied Mathematics and Theoretical Physics, DAMT, at the University of Cambridge, and I'm also the editor of the Journal of Fluid Mechanics. It's been very interesting to become the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Fluid Mechanics. I've had various roles in the journal, and for the year before I was editor, I was lucky enough to be one of the deputy editors of the journal. So I was able to watch and kind of learn from Gray Worcester, who was the previous and long-standing editor of the journal, and begin to appreciate the issues that the senior editors of the journal have to consider, not just maintaining the standards of the quality of the papers, the quality of review, and like you do when you're an associate editor, sort of handling various papers, but also thinking more about some of the strategic and strategy and policy issues, dealing with appeals, but also dealing with decisions you have to make. That's the interesting thing. When you end up as the editor, you're asked your view on what do you think of this new design, what do you think of these new ideas, and how would you like to handle this issue or that issue. You know, for example, questions about what do you think about the treatment of appendices, and it's an important aspect to think about in publishing. You know, JFM papers are really focused on being not only the cutting edge of fluid mechanics, but being very clear and valuable resources to be able to read. And so understanding the balance between what should be in the main text, what should be an appendix, what's appropriate to be supplementary material, these are sort of decisions that have to be made by the editors that are involved in the process in collaboration with the publishers, so to speak, the people who work for Cambridge University Press and Assessment, who are responsible for the publication of the Journal of Fluid Mechanics. And so that's really the thing that I've realized that I have to do, is to thinking about not only about the future, about how the journal will change and evolve and keep at the forefront of academic publishing and of fluid mechanics, but also how to deal with all the day-to-day queries that come up about policy, about how things should be presented, and to deal with those cases where decisions have to be made about whether somebody feels their paper has been, the review process has worked appropriately for this particular publication, and also to maintain the highest levels of academic integrity and clarity and transparency in the way the process is and the handling of the editorial activity of the journal. There's also an aspect of forward-looking strategy ideas. You know, we were discussing, for example, about the positioning of the Rapids format of papers, you know, really stressing more that they are, you know, really supposed to be timely papers with the potential for high impact in the field, and that they should be there is an argument why the community would like them to be published rapidly, and they're likely to be set the research agenda in their particular area. And also, you know, discussions about how we will reflect the changing structure of the research community in fluid mechanics, still most definitely wanting the highest quality research associated with classical areas like turbulence or geophysical fluid dynamics, but also being aware about emerging fields that have got new exciting results, and making sure that the editorial board reflects the diversity of the community in terms of subject area, in terms of background, in terms of geographical location. You know, this is very important. JFM must be a location for the global research community in fluid mechanics, very broadly defined, to be able to publish their best work. So we also are always thinking about that sort of strategy of things. And also the publishing world is changing, right? So we've had the as I said as I wrote thanking Gray for his service, right? So there have, on his watch, there's been various new formats of papers in the journal, like the fast track that then became Rapids, the focus on fluids, which I was actually fortunate enough to be involved in launching that aspect, to have these short articles to really look at the new, something that's really interesting that's come out in the journal recently, the perspectives, these wonderful long articles, a perspective from a particular world expert in their field telling us about why their area is interesting and why there's been exciting breakthroughs in that particular area. And then, more recently in terms of even changes in format, going online only, and now really recently driven forward by one of the deputy editors, Charles Meneveau, the JFM notebook format, the way you actually can interact with the data, dive into the data, as we said, so that you can actually look at a figure and access the Jupyter Notebook and turn the image round or change the ISO surface or replot a curve so that you can actually see whether the arguments of the authors are really actually backed up by the data, and also then ask other questions of the data, just as Charles said, it really is changing the way, reflecting the way the publications, reflecting the changing way that academics now work, right? So when I talk to my collaborators or my PhD students, there's always a laptop open, you're always modifying the figure, and yet we are just on the cusp in publishing and being able to do that. There's the text, there's definitely the original value, but the record, the paper of record is defined by what's published, but you can now ask new questions. And then also, of course, there's the open access revolution about changing the way papers are the funding of the business of the publishing model is changing, about how papers are actually published. And how they are disseminated so that the whole community can read them without necessarily having a subscription at the point of wanting to read the paper. All this is very interesting and is changing, that we have to deal with these changes, and the editorial board are thinking about that, while still being laser focused on it's got to be publishing papers of the highest quality that are really clear, that have real fluid dynamical interest for our community, our research community out there across the globe. I think the most important goal that I have going forwards is to maintain the quality of the publications and the commitment from the community to both send their best work and also produce the highest quality reviews when they're asked to review the papers that are being published in the Journal of Fluid Mechanics, while still appreciating and embracing the change of the subject areas that are being considered, the geographical distribution of our community, all aspects of the breadth of our and diversity that is in our community, so that everybody who's thinking about fluid mechanics, wherever they are welcome. That's it was a guiding principle of George Batchelor when he founded the journal, and also when he founded the European Mechanics Society, was to appreciate that scientific endeavor is an international, global activity, and we really should bring everybody together to work and consider the problems of interest. 1 year in, I think the thing that I am personally proudest of is to have the small involvement with JFM Notebooks. I just think they are their potential is so high to be able to, like the editorial that Charles and I wrote is just a testing the waters, showing the potential for having this next stage of openness in our research, that you're actually able to get direct access to the data that has been used to produce the figures and to modify those figures. I think that's really something I'm very pleased about. I'm also pleased about the way we've extended our editorial board to involve 2 new people from China, and we are very much focused on continuing to broaden our editorial board to reflect all the great academic research that's going on across the world. And I think I think another thing that is very exciting to me is to continue to see that the journal is still proving to be a go-to place that people are wanting to submit their papers. Not in any way saying that that's something to be complacent about, but I think it is something that's really clear from the exciting flow of high-quality research that's coming through the journal. So looking forwards, that's something we want to continue to maintain, and we're looking at different ways, as I say, the Rapids to perhaps, and short-term objective is to in some sense relaunch Rapids to really stress that they're four exciting, timely papers, and also we're thinking about other ways to reflect how important it is to have the community reading the papers, reviewing the papers, submitting the papers to our journal.